Hi everyone, how's it going? This is a test setup really for it's a test for my live stream setup. I'm going to be doing some live streaming, doing some character illustration on Procreate live with he. And I thought I'd just so this is a test video. This isn't live, but I've got some stuff set up. I've had quite a lot to learn, a bit of a learning curve to do with kit and what I actually need. I've had to get some bits and pieces like mics and leads and gadgets and what have you in order to do this. So I'm quite excited. I think it should be good fun. But yeah, I wanted to do some sort of live streams using Procreate and the type of illustrations that I come up with, the techniques I use. Just thought it'd be a bit of fun. Anyway, so this is a test. This isn't live. As I've said, this is recorded, but it's the setup that I'm going to be using. So I just wanted to test it out and see how it worked and see if I've actually done my homework and set things up right and everything seems to be working. Touch wood. Everything seems to be working okay at the moment. So anyway, so let's dive in. So I've got a canvas here, new canvas, and I've got this character up here on the left that I made recently that I quite like. And that was quite a simple character, just made with shapes. So I thought I'd recreate it here and just go through the process of putting that together, using layers and a few different, not using loads of brushes. I've got a set load of brushes that I use that are my go-to brushes, and they're the ones I'm going to be using today. And we can talk about those in more depth at a different time. But for now, I just want to kind of dive in and show you how I came up with this character. So if you just bear with me a second, we'll be doing a bit of that. It's not what we need. What do we need? I've moved all my brushes around, so I don't know where everything is. Silly, really, yeah. Should keep things where they are, shouldn't I? Okay, so yeah, this is the brush I'm going to use to start with. So I'm just going to do a circle. That's far too thick. So let's just bring that down slightly. Let me get my reference up so I know what I'm doing. This is one of those things that I should have sorted out first. Like I say, learning curve, but it's all good. Let's have that open in front of me. So yeah, okay, so I just did a circle. And let's just because the nature of the brush, sometimes it leaves a little bit of residue when you link it up, so let's just get rid of that. It's not quite what I wanted. Let's just do that again. Do a bit bigger. So nice line work, so a nice art line over there. So I'm going to be a lot of the stuff that I do is really loose. I do a lot of different stuff, but this, when I'm doing simple characters like this, my line work tends to be really loose and kind of organic. And I'm not looking for anything like structured in a way that it's kind of real, but I want something that's interesting, so I'm going to be looking for something that's interesting. Now I did the eyes two separate sizes, a big one here. This one's going to turn out a bit differently than the previous one I made. I still kind of want that sleepy look in his eye, so let's have a look at that. It's kind of working, yep. And I like line work. I like bold line. Again, it's one of the things that I'm kind of coming away from at the moment. I'm trying to do a lot more artwork where I don't do the initial line work, so I'm actually working with shapes and forms to start with, rather than a bold line. Almost like a sort of a cartoonist or a comic book artist is the way that I do a lot of my work. Sort of black line work and then colour flat filling and stuff like that, and then sort of building it from there. But I've been looking at a lot of different artists recently. I've been undertaking a few projects. One of the projects I've undertaken is this thing called Bird Fest 2025, which is drawing a bird a day, birds of the world. So I'm drawing a bird a day for the month of January. I thought I'd have a crack at that. It's been quite fun so far. Quite interesting. They're not the sort of subject matter I usually choose to draw, but I wanted to sort of get out of my comfort zone a little bit and do something a bit different, and this caught my imagination, so I've quite enjoyed it so far. You can see some of my birds. It's all over social media, so they're not hard to find, but if you want to go and have a look at them, they're quite interesting. Today I've got today's to do yet. Today's is a cassowary, and that's an odd bird. If you've ever seen an odd bird, that's very odd, but I'm going to enjoy drawing that one, I think. So yeah, here, what I did was, I think that bottom line's a bit thick, but I'm not going to worry about that now. So here I just used the bottom part of that jaw for the lip like that. I don't think is it going to work this time. Like I said, it's a bit thick. I might just do that. Actually, let's just break the rules a bit. There are no rules with art. You can do whatever it is you want to do, and it won't be wrong. It'll just be what you're doing. Yep. It's funny, these rules in art. Because there are rules in art, there are rules about sort of depth, colour theory, composition. But as much as they exist, you can break them as well. Sometimes that's fun. If you never sort of push the boundaries, you never come up with anything unique or different. But I suppose some of the rules exist because, they do what they do. They work. Do what they say on the tin sort of thing. So, but I like to break the rules. I don't like to sort of adhere to them too much. I like the organic process. I like to see what I can come up with, and if it means breaking the rules. And sometimes I actually put pressure on myself because I think to myself, well, I can't do that. And then I have a word in myself in my head going, why not? You're the artist, do what you want. So, I have those mad conversations with myself sometimes. And they can be frustrating, but, we get through them. It's all good. This reminds me of, I don't know what they're called, those little wooden Chinese dolls you can buy. I'm pretty sure we've got one in the house somewhere, like little ornaments. This character here reminds me of that a little bit. Same sort of style. I do quite like this dark line work. It's born out of my first love, really, which is like sort of graffiti art. When I was a young lad, I was massively into graffiti art, and the world had really never seen it when I was a boy. I was like sort of the early 80s, early to mid 80s. Huge, massive typographical scrawls started popping up everywhere in the city. I'm from Nottingham. In the Midlands, and these huge, like, wonderful pieces of artwork started appearing in subways and on walls around the city, and it really sort of got my attention. And I thought it was fabulous. The really bright colours, you know, because of the car sprays they used, and they had limited colours, and then there were some brighter colours came out. I think the cans were called Buntlack. I seem to remember. Could be wrong. I think they're called Buntlack. Don't quote me on that. But anyway, the characters that appeared with these pieces of artwork, with these typographical scrawls, were awesome, and it's kind of stayed with me, and I, you know, got into that culture a little bit, and it's kind of stayed with me ever since. And I do like sort of this bold, interesting style, bold character. So it's quite simple so far. I think ears would just appear probably underneath this cap, like so. I'm just going to do a small line, almost like it's the ridge of his hat, or the ridge of the bandana, or whatever it is. What do we think it is, hat or bandana? I'm going to go hat dana. Let's go bandana. Might have a bow around the back, something like that. Yeah, I quite like this. So I'm just going to put a few of these contour lines. This shows kind of where the weight of the cheek will come down here. So I am thinking about the structure. I'm thinking about, even though it's like a character that's made up, I am thinking about kind of, this is what I mean about the rules. Thinking about how bone structure works, cheekbones. Even though I'm really loose here, because his mouth's kind of slightly off to the edge, a bit obscured. But we put these things in because they're like hints and nods towards the things that we recognise to be real. Yep, so we use those elements when we're drawing things that aren't so real. And I think, to a certain extent, it kind of sells the artwork a little bit more. So I've just used this one brush at the moment. It's one that I've made, the bleed edge liner. It's derived from something else, and I kind of changed it about a bit till I got something that I like, but I quite like how it tapers. I've been using it actually for these birds I've been doing, because what it does do is it tapers to the, I've been doing feathers like this, it tapers to this beautiful point, and then if you use a razor, the same brush to erase from, you can create these kind of nice shapes. That's been working for this bird project that I've been doing. I've really found this a lot of fun actually, this bird project. It's given me a lot of ideas about, you know, illustrating other stuff that I've not really looked at before. So it's kind of opened up a bit of a new world for me, which is quite exciting. New stuff's always exciting. It's good stuff. Good to have new stuff. Keeping things fresh. I like to hold the iPad in my hands when I work. Something I've kind of got used to, so I kind of hold it here. I know some people like it on a flat surface, or, you know, on a stand or something, but I'll sometimes put it on a flat surface, and got a couple of juggling balls that I put down on the table. It just props it up at a certain angle. That works, but mostly I just hold it in my hands. Kind of feel a bit more connected to it, if you know what I mean. So okay, that's the line work. Like I say, fairly simple. So what I'm going to do now, that's just one layer. So we'll lock it so we don't disturb it anymore. We'll get a new layer and just drag this underneath. And that next thing I'm going to do is just some colour flats. So if I make this line a reference, come back down in here. What did we do? We did orange last time. Let's go for more yellow this time. So vibrant yellow, just drop that in. And I'll go yellow, we'll do an orange eye. Shall I keep these on separate layers? It's fairly simple this, so let's go an orange eye, and that one, and then the mouth. So this character is slightly different, but not too much. Could do a load of them. Might be quite interesting. And then another layer, and we'll do the skin tones. It was quite grey before, so I'm going to go bright, because what that greyness comes, I'll show you in a minute, but I use when I come to doing sort of the shading, shadows, and started putting more tonal value into it. I tend to use a black over the top and then kind of smudge it out a little bit, but first we'll just get some colour in there, like that. Just pop it in the ears. Cool. Looking good. Okie doke. Okay, so on another layer, this is what I mean. So get a black, and I use this glazy paint brush, which is just amazing. So if I make the selection from the colour flat I've put in, so I've got a good selection of the area that I'm going to shade, and remember to go back to the layer you're working on, which is always useful. There's so many times that I want to use separate layers and then I forget to change the layer, or forget the layer I'm on. It's an occupational hazard. I'm not the only artist that does it. I'm sure there's hundreds of people out there. I think you probably might know what I'm talking about if you're used to using Photoshop or Indeed Procreate or something like that. But I still do it. You know, I've been years using this, and always times when I'm not thinking, I want to do some shading over a flat colour, I want to keep the layers separate, do a load of work, and then realise I've been working on the same layer, and it's like, you've got to go back and do it all again. So it's always good just to make sure you're on the right layer when you're going to do stuff like this. So I am on the right layer, yep. So yeah, I've selected the area, so I'm just, what I'm going to do with this glazy paint is just, let's see if it's going to let me. I paint in, so I'm quite haphazard with this to start with, just any old how, because I like to sort of blend it out a little bit like that, so you get this nice sort of painting the lighter areas. And again, coming back to those rules, I think there's probably an ambient light in this image, so the light's coming from mainly above, but can be bouncing from all over the place. But yeah, it's not too complicated a light, so we're just thinking about where ambient light would hit the face. So you'll get shadow in these little pockets under the cap or the bandana, in the eye sockets just above the eyelid, just in these wells in the eyelids, around the mouth area, under the nose. So you kind of play around with those ideas of where the light might be. And it's good fun. Yeah, just smudge it out slightly. Under that nose, a bit of shade under that nose a bit more. This shape on the top of your lip. It's coming together. Okay, quite like this. And then if I take that selection area off and just put some shade in the eyes, just under that top lid. Like that hood. Can you see how it changes the image? It's just lovely. Subtle change, but so the rules, there are rules, you see. There are rules in art. The rules of where light, how light and shade and tonal values affect the image. And it's good to be aware of these things and have a think about that when you're drawing. Certainly when you're drawing something, when you're making something up. I'm not using a reference for this. Well, I am. I'm using a reference of the thing that I've done, but I made that up. So it's just being aware of, you know, how light works and how it would affect the image, how you can make the image more dynamic, make it more believable by using the rules. I hate using the word rules in art. There are no rules. Break all the rules. Okay, so now I'm just going to do some shade. So using this flat, select from that, back to the shading area. See, I changed back to the layer I'm using. I remembered. And now put some shade in this. And blend that out as well. I've been looking for, I don't know if anybody will be able to tell me. If you know, leave me a message in the comments. But I'm looking for some sort of royalty-free music to use just in the background, so I can play it. So I've got a bit of music just going on during the live stream. I don't know if you could use any of those lo-fi. I've got to do a bit of research, to be honest with you. Just something, those lo-fi hip-hop tracks that you get on YouTube. Not sure if you can use them. Just want something that's just rolling over in the background, so it's just not silent. Like I say, I've got a bit of research to do still, to sort a few bits and bats out to do with live streaming. Let's have a look at that. It's looking all right. So, aha. One thing I do like to do is to get a bit of texture in. So this process of putting shade in, they're on separate layers. But what I do like to do is if I duplicate this layer, obviously it all goes darker. But from this layer, I've got this like these cross-hatching brushes that I use quite a bit. So if you just erase with them, so I've got both the shaded area layers, but you can sort of turn down the opacity on each of them. So if I zoom into that, can you see you've got this lovely like hatch line going through in the shade. So if I go and turn the opacity down on the original shaded area and bring it back to where it would have been tonally, just mix the two together, you get this kind of cool hatch line. But I use quite a lot. I use a lot of different techniques like that that just kind of add a bit of interest into, or a bit of detail into the image, in simple ways. Okay, we need some shadow on that lip, slightly at the bottom. Slight shadow on there, like that. Let's put a bit of, using the same sort of shader brush, I'm just going to put a bit of texture. It's got like the way the brush is made, it's got this lovely shape to it. It's quite nice, works quite well for doing sort of texture, interesting texture additions like this. And I love Procreate because of the many different ways you can use the brushes. Once you get used to it, and once you've collected a few favourites together, kind of really informs the work that you're doing. Quite like that. Yeah. Okie doke. So next we are going to do some highlights. So put this highlight layer above the line layer, pick up this white, use the glazy brush again. Let's just get some light in there. I think before I just used a hard brush. I'm going to use this this other brush for now. Let's use a hard brush this side. Let's have a look. What we're doing, there we go. I haven't done this on the initial image, the one that I'm referencing, but this is another trick. So when you've got ambient light in a situation, most of the time light comes from above us, whether we're indoors or we're outdoors. Obviously outdoors the sun's always above us. Indoors usually light's always in the roof. I know you get down lights and lights come up from the floor, but a lot of the time light comes from above us, and when it does, it kind of casts shadow in the places I was talking about earlier, so in the sockets of the eyes, under the nose, under the lip, under the chin, under the brim of a hat or hair or whatever. And it's always worth keeping that in mind when you're illustrating and sort of putting in elements according. So this, with your eye, you'll always have a shadowed top lid, a heavier line on the top lid, and the bottom of the eye will pick up the light. So this line at the bottom of the lid will always be a bit shiny. Just a little trick. I always like to put a little shine on the lip, not too much. I'll do. And then on the nose. It's coming together a bit now. I'm going to put some orange into the body and the hat. Just a little bit, just to make it, just for a bit of interest more than anything else, just to make it slightly, so it's not just yellow. And again, thinking about using it in the shadowy regions of the image, because that makes sense to me. And then I'm going to put a bit of this orange just in the shadow areas of the face also. We'll blend that in. Just makes it less grey. And it's just messes with the tonal values. It just brings things together a little bit. Let's have a look at that. Quite like that. Slightly different than the other one. I think I like this one better actually. It's quite a dude. And I'm going to put a bit more texture in the body, I think. Let's have a look. Now these crosses, I made this brush. You see that pop up? What was it from Twitter? X, I beg your pardon. I'm a Forest fan now, you know. They're doing well. I made this brush and I love it. It's just these crosses. So what I do is quite a hard edge brush, as you can see. Let's just start again. It's got a hard edge to it. And I'm just going over again that where I've put the shade with that other orange. But what I like to do is blend this out as well. So let's just change the size of that brush down. Just kind of blend it into the image. Can you see that? Works quite nicely. So I'm losing that edge a little bit. You don't have to blend it out. Sometimes it's quite nice if it's used as a hard edge as well, but I quite like to blend it. And then on the same layer, just because I don't need another layer, let's have a look what else we got. Is one of my go-tos, spatter brush. Spatter brush, select. Let's make it a bit smaller. Just get other bits of texture in there. Okay. I'm going to go back to that yellow. Just pick it up and put a bit of that spatter brush, the yellow on top. Not too much. Blend it. So quite like that. This spot here is not working for me. Where is it? Just want to knock that bit back a bit. Wrong layer. There you go. There you go. Quite like that. And now the background. So just a simple background for now. Let's get a new layer. Let's go with a yellow. And do another layer and the orange. Pick the orange up. Yeah, quite like that. And lastly, what do you reckon? Yeah, quite happy with that. Cool. So hopefully this would have all recorded well, and we'll be doing some live streams soon. So if you've seen this video, give us a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe to my channel please, that'd be brilliant, because that really helped me out. I'm going to be doing some live streams soon. I've got a Patreon page if you want. I do monthly challenges on there if you want to come and join me and get involved with those. Yeah, and generally enjoy your artwork.